Hi, my name is Bill, and today I'd like to take a little time to talk to you about the Behringer X32 soundboard. Now, this is an amazing piece of equipment. It really is, and it has a lot of versatility to it. And I would just say that I am not an audio engineer. A lot of this does not come very naturally to me. I had to have some help from a very analytical type of a guy to even get on the right framework to begin working with this. But the X32 probably has that much to it, and I've learned about that much. But I think it's very useful to us in the theater, and what it is most useful for us is in the way you can store microphone configurations in the memory of the soundboard. So that if you've got a scene coming up between three characters, and the three characters are on microphones 1, 3, and 7, and you know the levels where those actors using those microphones are going to be most effective, you can preset those levels of those three microphones. You can save that configuration and store it into the memory, and then you can bring that up at a touch of a button whenever you need it during the course of your show. It's an amazing tool for us in the theater. So it took a little while for me to figure out how to do this. So I thought I would share some of that with you now. In terms of setting up the board in general, that's going to take a little time. If it's a brand new board to you, you need someone who's got a lot of patience to kind of sit down and figure out exactly how to set all the channels up. But once you do that, it can be a very versatile piece of equipment for you. So my focus today is going to be on using the scene configuration of this board to set up audio microphone memory cues for your use throughout the course of your production. So let's get started with that. So today we want to deal with the scene component of the Behringer X32. This will help us to store and recall memory audio cues in the console. This is an incredibly useful and practical component for especially our use in the theater. So this X32 console, it's called the X32 because it has 32 working channels of audio. In the old days, we used to, get by with 8 or 12 or 16. Now there's 32, and they're on 2 different levels. And to do it manually is kind of crazy, especially if you're doing a big show like Into the Woods, or we just did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Even a relatively simple show like that, it's tough to do with just manual manipulation. So programming this board is definitely the way to go, but it's not real clear as how you go about doing that. So I thought we would take a few minutes and just give you an idea of how I learned to do it in just this last production that we did. So to do this, we need to access the scene screen of the X32, and we do that by depressing this view button down in the scene controls, and that'll bring up this series of screens. So by pressing view, we start off the home screen of the scene component, which is where you'll actually run the cues of your show. But we want to press this right arrow on the page select to take us to what we call the scene screen. And I know that's confusing. It's a scene screen that's part of the scene component of the Behringer X32. So there you see I've already put a couple of scenes into the scene page. Scene 1 is Duke, Gabby, and Louise. Let's take a look at the script we'll be working with. We see on this page, Duke's microphone will be on channel 1, Gabby's microphone on channel 10, and Louise's microphone on channel 15, corresponding to the channels on the Behringer board. So you see that scene 1 indicates microphone activity for Duke, Gabby, and Louise. So we go to the channel section of the board and we say that channel 1 Duke has been saved at an appropriate auditory level. And there is channel 10 for Gabby, saved at an appropriate level, and channel 15 for Louise, saved at an appropriate level. So those three channels are saved as scene 1. Now you have to link that scene to a cue on the home page, which I've already done. And on this home page is where we link the scenes we create to the cues we're actually going to run during the course of the show. And so we're going to highlight scene 1, and we're going to depress the encoder under the go sign there. And now I've got a message. Do you want to load this scene? We do. So we'll come over and push the right arrow. And now we can look over and we can see that indeed that first scene has been loaded into the board. Duke, Gabby, and Louise. I know this may seem a bit confusing at the moment, but I'll try to explain in a little while how we actually linked that scene page to the cue page. Okay, let's try loading another audio cue. Here you see we've got other channels of audio to program. For Delbert, his microphone's linked to the board channel 5. For Kelly, channel 7. For Haas, channel 18. And for Bandy, channel 9. We come up into this home screen again where all our cues are. We highlight scene 2. We depress the encoder on go, and we get a dialog box. And we say yes to that. So I hope you just heard that little noise. That was the sliders moving up to the correct positions for this next scene of the script. Delbert and Kelly and Bandy. Those are the characters whose microphones we needed. And we go to the second level there and we see that Haas's microphone has also been activated for that cue. Okay, so let's create a new memory scene and figure out how to link that new scene to a cue for our show. So this is going to be for Louise's microphone on channel 15. So we bring up her slider and set that up. We go to the second level of channels and we find Ricky, channel 19. There's going to be a script scene between Ricky and Louise. So we want his microphone up. We'll take Haas's down. So just these two microphones are going to be needed for this scene that we're about to create. So going back to our scene screen, we use the first encoder to select an empty slot to save our new scene in. We've already made our settings on our channel, so we press the fourth encoder to save the settings to the scene. And using the fourth and fifth encoder, we enter our desired scene names, which is kind of a pain in the neck on the console itself, but that's the only way to do it. And then we click the sixth encoder to save the scene. And there you see our new scene, scene 3, Louise and Ricky. It should be Louise. I misspelled that. I'm sorry. I'm going to blame it on the typo on the board, but that's the way it goes. Now we're going to go back to the home screen, which we go back and this time click the left arrow to go back to the home screen to link that new scene to a new cue. Okay, so now we're back on the home screen. We see there it says add a cue. We depress the encoder. Okay, now we're going to name the new cue. I'm picking 10.3. And again, this is just a pain in the neck to type in these labels. It's going to be scene 3. You'll just have to learn how to manipulate that crazy keyboard they give you. There's a great app for the X32, but unfortunately it does not address this scene section of the board. Okay, so we've got all our typing in there. We push the save button, and there it is in our cue sheet. Now we want to select a scene to link to that cue. So we rotate that button. There's scene 3, comes up on the drop down. We push down that button to select it. And now we are linked with that cue to that scene that we just created. So now I'll pull all the sliders down to 0. I'll highlight the new cue that we created. I'll push go. There it is. Push go. There's the dialogue. We're going to say yes to that. And we come over and we see that our Ricky slider has gone up. And in the first level, our Louise slider has gone up to the appropriate spot. So there we've created a new memory scene and successfully linked it to a new cue. But you can store over 100 cues in this device, and it makes it much easier for you to run your show. You load a cue, and you might have to make an adjustment in it, but it's much easier to make an adjustment when the cue has already been loaded into the board than to have 10 fingers going on 7 different channels at the same time. It definitely makes it much more efficient for you to run a show in the theater using this method. Now, I know some of the nomenclature on this is confusing. Scenes, cues, script scenes, it's all kind of confusing. But I hope this has been somewhat helpful to you. It might at least provide you with a starting track to run on. And the best thing, like with any piece of technology, just use it as often as you can. The more you use it, the more you will understand it, and the more you'll be able to it'll become useful to you. So thank you very much for listening and watching, and the best to you. Have a great show, and maybe we'll talk to you again soon.